this going. How's your day going so far?
It's going all right. It's a little rainy up here in Jersey, but no
Oh
worries.
gosh, you're in New Jersey?
Yeah, I know you're down in Florida. My parents live there.
Yeah. I was born and raised in Buffalo, New York, so I know all about that life, man.
Yeah.
And like the birds, I knew that there was a better way. So here I am.
Yeah. What city are you in again?
About 10 minutes south of Boca Raton.
Okay,
If you're
cool.
familiar with, most people are familiar with Boca. I live in Lighthouse Point.
Yeah. My parents are in Stewart, Florida.
Stewart.
Yeah.
That's about, I want to say, maybe an hour north
Okay.
of me, something
Yeah.
like that. Cool. So I know that you had sent me a bunch of emails. I'm understanding your condition. For the most part, it seems to be a bit of enigma, which is, these are the things that I deal with. And it always helps to also, when we get on calls like this, just kind of hear it from your side again. I know that things kind of started off with a nasty twisted ankle. I believe it was on the left side.
So yeah. Looking back at my injury history over like stuff that's like lingered and serious versus not, it probably started around 5 years ago when I broke my left sesamoid bone. And at that same time, I had a grade 2 ankle sprain. So I was basically in a walking boot, which, whatever, 6 weeks goes by, but I couldn't get my left sesamoid bone to heal. That's uh, right under my big toe. So they actually made me custom orthotics that made the left side a little bit elevated and the right ball an indent. So it would take pressure off my left sesamoid. And my left sesamoid bone's healed now, which is good, but it seems that I have lingered effects from this. I was an Ironman 2 years ago, was running 15 miles, biking all the time, and I was in really good shape. Through that, actually, I was kind of struggling with Achilles tendonitis a lot. Um,
Do you still have that?
I don't, I don't. And that was also on my left.
Yep.
Um, And after that, I jumped into the CrossFit world because I was like, I'm a little bit too skinny. I want to get some strength. And I figured it was great for my endurance levels where I was already at. I was already, you know, doing marathons and stuff. So I went into there and I wasn't understanding how to lift properly and using my core. And I was really kind of just keeping my back straight and poking my butt out, which was like anteriorly shifting my pelvic, but I wasn't like keeping my diaphragm and breath work like really cool. I wasn't doing any of that. I was just lifting. Um, got hurt in February. It wasn't that bad for a month. I kind of rested and then I went to a PT. I did the McKenzie method for 4 sessions and then I got a massage and I was 100% pain free. Jumped right back into what I was doing, working out again, immediately injured it again. I was still the quarterback of my soft flag football team, still playing men's softball, hitting really good hard shots. I was stretching every day. And I really feel like supine hamstring stretches where I just had a rope, not like a rope, and brought it. I feel like that ended up just killing me because from May, when I was like 85% to July, my back just locked up. Like I was
Uh,
like, oh my God. And July, I stopped everything and I was like, I have to figure some stuff out. That's when I got the MRI and that's when I started to really do some research. And, as I look at my body now, I'm realizing the signs were on the wall previously and I ignored it and just pushed through it. But, I'm seeing like at least a right hip hike. I've noticed, and this is always a funny joke that I've always said to my wife now. We just got married, but she always says that I can't walk straight. Like, and if I ever got pulled over for a DUI, I'd fail the walking test.
mm.
I always like, and I always laughed at that in the past, but now I'm like, oh shit. Like it was like obvious. I've gone to chiropractors and they're like, oh, of course. Yeah. One leg shorter than the other. I've never asked which one. I've just been like, okay, they pulled it out, and I just went about my day. Um, but I definitely am seeing, at least on me, this is what I'm seeing. Like, I'm in the shower, I put my feet dead center, dead straight. I'm seeing my right is out further than the left. That is
Mhm.
definitely what I'm seeing. And I don't know if it's the angle of protruding or what because of that, but I'm seeing a little bit of a right hip hike. That's what I can see, but I can't positively say it based off numbers because I have no hip internal rotation, external rotation. I have like no mobility.
Okay. So when we start messing around with the feet, I tell everybody that your shoulders are really going to dictate the type of pain you're experiencing in your body. It's going to be your shoulder arrangement. However, it's going to be your feet that dictate the shoulder arrangement. So it seems like all the pain, all the problems that you had on that left side, first off, wearing the boot, I mean, terrible, terrible, terrible. I realize that this is one of the ways that they tell you we have to heal your bone, obviously, and they put you in a boot. It's very hard, and people don't understand that the hardness of the boot is actually what helps heal the bone. Okay, the harder the vibration that's going through the boot, it's going to dictate then Wolf's law in the bone, which is going to meet the imposing demands of the harder surface. So your bone's going to say, I got to get harder, and it helps it heal faster. You'd have been better off walking barefoot, but there, and if you ever follow the human garage, Gary Lynham and myself, more so Gary and the human garage, but I came in and had maybe about 30% extra um, information for the gentleman. I can't remember his name. This is like 2 years ago, but he broke his foot bad. I'm talking about, I mean, this thing was purple, black, blue, yellow, orange, just nasty.
Yeah.
And he wanted to go the unconventional route. So Gary pulled me in and he was like, hey, I kind of want to get you to get your information, your head and your thoughts in on this. And together we helped him with a plan. And he's completely pain free and operational today with no serious side effects. So what they're concerned about, right, is the flexion extension of the foot and the pain that you're going to be in while you're walking when this is occurring. But really, we look at something back in like Cro-Magnon man days, like right where if you couldn't walk and hunt and everything, like you would die. So did they have a hard boot? No, they didn't. They were
Yeah.
just forced to walk barefoot, right? Um, Failure number 2 on Western medicine's part is gonna be the orthotics. These podiatrists, they love trying to correct movement faults through those inserts, and they're gonna charge you 800, 900, or charge your insurance 800, $900, God knows what. Right, and, all they are doing is putting a wig on a pig, right, and eventually that baby is gonna come and oink, because we are going to still, by default, not be correcting the movement faults that are going up the body. They defer that through shaping the problem that the foot is already having. So the foot's already having a problem, they shape it in such a way to take pressure off specific points and try to make that movement fault disappear. And really, it's just another form of masking tape or another band-aid.
Yeah.
So that foot pain starts to go away, but what we do is we start to create more problems going up the chain, right?
Yeah. So that
So go ahead.
I was just going to say, so then I also led up the following year, I had another bad sprained ankle, like went to the podiatrist and he actually said
Left ankle or right ankle?
again, the left ankle. Yeah, did it
Yeah.
the following year. And, like people have said stuff to me that like at the time I didn't understand, but now I do. He was like, "Your ankles are really loose, just to let you know, like on your left side." I'm like, "All right, well, I don't know what you want me to do about it." Um,
Yeah,
that
I love when people it's the same thing like at the chiropractor, right? Like, "Hey, your one leg is shorter than the other," and they yank on it. Bro, I it's kinda it goes back to when I was working for So Right, and somebody ended up saying, "Hey," like, they messaged me, and they were like, "Hey, like, I was laying on the so right on in my subscapularis for like 11 minutes and my arm went numb. Is that supposed to happen?" And I kind of replied, I said, just hold your arm above your head for 11 minutes and tell me it doesn't go numb. Like that's too long. Like that's silly. Don't do that.
yeah,
But I don't like it when people or practitioners just give this blanket statement, "Hey, one leg is longer than the other." Well, can you tell me why?
right,
Can you tell me what the problem is? Because that's obviously a symptom.
yeah,
And they're never getting down the brass tacks. It's just giving it a label, and then they pull on your leg. They say that it's even with the other one where, like I said, I could do I mean, Matt, I could do probably 15 minutes of soft tissue work on your right arm, and what's gonna happen is you put them both out in front of you, and your right arm is gonna be longer than your left, because we relaxed that tissue more, so, of course, if I yank on that leg a whole bunch of times, it's gonna look like it's even with the other one, but when you
and yeah,
stand up and the myofascial system slings back into position where the tight spots are and where the loose spots are, then what do we have? We have a completely different orientation than what we had on the table, because now fascia is active, where when you're laying down, fascia is not active as much as when you're standing, because
yeah.
nothing has to brace against gravity. The table supports you doing that. So I'm sorry. I just like these are
No,
things that
this is what's
that know
happening,
and
and
understand the smoke and mirrors when we go and we see practitioners that are dealing with inadequate theology about the body. Go ahead.
yeah. I mean, I'm 30 years old, so I'm young in a way, but old in the sense that like I'm glad that I'm finding some of this stuff out now because I'm really going down the rabbit hole of like understanding a lot more. So anyway, just recently I went to a chiropractor. This was about 4 months ago, and he had something cool called force plates. I'm sure you've heard of it, where basically,
I was dealing with forced plates in 2005 at the PT clinic I was working at, and even though I didn't have any pain or problems in my body,
Mhm.
I could never get the force plates to be even. Okay. I think it's very naive to say that somebody who's completely balanced should be putting the same amount of force into each leg going down and coming up.
Okay.
I feel like like the fascial system, the body is too dynamic. I feel like movement is too dynamic for something like that to happen. And again, we use that as a carrot for people to keep on coming back. Oh, your air squat still is not even, and we would get into a ratio of about 13-15% or so, and then we would stop. We would just be like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, you're doing pretty good. We're gonna transition now to this." And we would just stop doing it completely because we never had anybody get to that 50-50.
Yeah.
Never. Never.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
I was just going to say it wasn't 13%. It was my right side on my squat carried 80% of the weight, and my
Yep.
left side carried 20, which again, just kind of, there's a lot of evidence that I'm like, you know what? Maybe my right lateral pelvic tilt does have, and when I'm going down, of course, all my weight has to go on my right because my left, I don't know. And again, I'm
Body's
not
disconnected.
100% clear on this.
Yeah, your body's disconnected from all the trauma that happened on that left-hand side, and when you're coming down, the new pattern is to always just stay
Yeah.
on that right foot because your injury got frozen in time. That broken sesamoid bone and that twisted ankle, I'm sure you inverted the ankle, so it came in, or did it come out
My
like
left
this?
ankle went in.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. So, so when you have your foot, are you talking about it went this way, so it collapsed towards the midline of the body, or it collapsed away from the midline and on the lateral side of the body?
Um, I'm sorry. So, like, the bone of the outside was really like the whole front left of the left foot. So
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
I rolled it in my
Yep.
left.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, so this is kind of what I got going on. And my back pain, first off, I've been doing Totally Twisted, and Totally Twisted has helped me a lot, like
Great.
quickly. It's helped me a lot. I wanted to ask you a quick question about zero gravity.
Sure.
I can hardly even get my hands, obviously, I just did it, but like in a comfortable spot above my head. And basically, when I do, I can't get it far enough that my neck is going so far. Like, I was wondering maybe I can find a different hand placement, but also too, when I did zero gravity the first time, I heard a huge pop and I was like really spooked. And I was like, oh crap, like can fascia actually pop?
Yes, absolutely. You're creating space, and that's what these drills or these maneuvers or these movements are meant to do. A even scarier, I guess you could say, occurrence in fascia that I've been a part of, one in my own body and another in a different lady that I was working with, is a what you call a shotgun release, and that's what that was. That was a shotgun release.
I thought I herniated a
People,
disc and I was like,
yeah,
oh my
people
God.
get people get spooked by it, but it's actually very beneficial. And what I've noticed is just a major pain reduction whenever that occurs.
Hmm,
So when I first started to find out about trigger points in the human body, I was taking everything, and balls, PVC pipes. I would take bars. I would take the edge, I don't wanna say old because everything now is kinda like a bumper plate, right? But those metal 45-pound plates,
yeah.
and I would just sit there. I had so much pain in my knees, and I would just sit there, and I would put it on my quad, and there was this one time where I put it on my right quad, a 45-pound plate on my right quad, and there was just this nasty ass lump in my quad, and I'm resting it on there, and I swear to you, Matt, it sounded like a firecracker. There was a fizzing, like I could hear a fizzing, and then there was this pop, and the plate dropped into my thigh, and I was like, did I just break a bone? Like what was that? And when I got up, I had less pain in my knee, my leg was moving better, and I didn't have any problems on that side anymore. And I was like, geez, man, that was scary. It's the first time that ever happened to me. I want to say that was like 2008, 2009,
Yeah.
something like that. And then there was another lady that I was working with. She was a Olympian for the Canadian tri was it triathlete or decathlete? She was older. She was
Yeah.
67, 68 years old, but she was a former Olympian, and she still loved to ride a bike. So the person that was her coach still at the time would put her on an ergometer and show that her right leg was not producing as much force as her left leg. And she started to have really bad hamstring problems in her right leg. So she had heard about me, and she was vacationing in Naples. She was from Montreal. She was like, would you come over and work on me? And I told her, yeah, it would cost a little bit more because that's going to be a 3-hour round trip for me in the car. She didn't care. So I show up and I'm working on her, and I start to find that her glute minimus and glute medius, that they're very, very taut, very tight, and it felt like they were actually attached to each other. So I'm working on them. I put her on her left-hand side, and I started to stretch sideline on the table, that right leg down, and it actually sounded like Velcro when I was stretching her, and it just collapsed, like her leg just collapsed. I thought I tore something. This is maybe now 2017. So I'm like, holy shit, for the first time in my life, I think I just like hurt somebody. And she kind of looked at me very calmly and she goes, "What was that?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And like my heart is racing. I'm like, "Stand up and let's walk around and see how you feel." And I'm thinking like she's gonna move
Limp.
and there's gonna be this shot of pain. I'm gonna get sued. Like I don't even know what's going on, right? Like I'm terrified. And she gets up and she's walking around. I'm like, okay, like this doesn't seem to be a big problem. And she goes, huh? She goes, all the pain in my hamstring is gone. So I find that whenever these shotgun releases
Right.
occur, they're actually very beneficial, and I've had 1 or 2 of them ever since, and it's happened the same way, like, people actually get a very beneficial release from it, and they don't have any pain, they don't have any problems thereafter in the area that they were seeking to heal. So I find it to be very beneficial, but it just shows the difference in between doing the fascia maneuvers where we're releasing things from the inside out and then doing the pressure work where we're releasing things from the outside in. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, don't be afraid of that stuff and it's actually beneficial.
Yeah. Um, so my back has actually been getting a little bit better. I would say like down from like this constant 4 out of 10 to like probably like a 2 out of 10 within the last
Okay.
week. I've been doing totally twisted. And one thing that I've been doing, which it's obvious to say why haven't I been doing this the whole time, but I've just been so confused with what's going on. I've been really attacking my glute strength a lot. And
Okay.
that has been helping. I guess one of the questions that I had for you is my posture whenever I stand up, I'm forward. My center of mass is forward. And
Mhm.
um, I've been told I have tight hamstrings, but I've also been told I have tight quads. So I guess what I'm trying to say is like stretching my hamstrings didn't work. Like that completely put me in a bind. So I really don't want to go that route. Um, And when I do good mornings, I'm actually not even feeling any glutes. I'm just feeling a hamstring stretch. Like it hits my
Yep.
hamstrings pretty
Your hip flexors are tight. Your hip
okay.
flexors are tight and what I'm starting to realize is that if the fascial maneuvers are helping you more, you're at the stage where you're going to need frequency and biotune work. Okay, so when we look at the human body, to me, everything ebbs and flows. Whatever's in front has to match whatever's in back. And when we look at what you're talking about where it just seems like your hamstrings won't release, it's because your hip flexors are frozen. And your hip flexors are frozen probably because of the inconsistency that was created with that left foot going to the right shoulder. And then everything that your body did leaning away from it, pushing more force from the right foot up to the left shoulder. And what ends up happening, like you said, is it will also create a rotation in the pelvis. So not only is that right hip hiked, okay, but then we have a rotation, the boot, and that's what creates that disarray in the lower back. So very, very difficult to get into these tissues. You can use something like a so right. You can use something like a mobility hand as well from Rogue, but you need a rig in order to put that mobility hand up and into to hold. So what I'm going to recommend is I'll be sending you the Biotunes, and I'm going to recommend you getting a the frequency device from Infopathy, and you're going to start to do things like the fascia pain or the fascia rehab frequencies, frequency work and whatnot. It's going to cost a little bit of money, but in all honesty, Matt, you're going to have it for the rest of your life, and it's going to really accelerate your healing and whatnot. And what you're going to notice is when you do the tuning, when you tune your hip flexors with the track that I'm going to send you, you will find that center of gravity get pushed back to where it's supposed to be. So
That's
the
yeah,
hip
that's
flexors
huge.
get tight, the hip flexors get tight. And what I look at is the hip flexors and the abdominals are the hamstrings of the front of the body. They do not equally oppose the quadriceps. They do not. Okay. What happens is when the hip flexors get tight and the hamstrings then get stretched and rebel against the tightness of the hip flexors, what ends up happening is we start to really decrease the activation of the quadriceps. So the quadriceps actually start to decrease their activation and the work that they're doing, and they actually start to lull themselves to sleep and become not as active. So that's why when we stand up and we move around, it feels like we're constantly being pulled forward. Okay. And that's
Yeah.
also gonna put a lot of stress on the lower back as
Yeah,
well.
and I can feel it. So definitely, I will do that, and it's nice to hear that the hip flexors. Well, it's not nice to hear, but it's nice to have clarity. Clarity
Sure.
is and a direction. So thank you. Um, Two questions. You know, everything that I'm going through, and I can tell you, just gives you more information. Like one thing that I can't do, which I find it so odd, is sit in a bathtub, like a straight leg position and my back being straight. I'm like in like death zone. Like I have to like go way, even lounging. I was in St. Lucia on my honeymoon last week, like a lounge chair. They have them like on the beach, like really cool. Can't sit in that
Mhm.
comfortably. And
Yeah.
I guess I'm a little bit kind of confused as to why that position, like maybe that position can give us more details, if not already, if it's not just tight hip flexors. But
Yeah, no, once again, it just sounds like your hip flexors are spasming.
yeah,
It sounds like they are really, really spasming because when you think about it, I'm sitting on the floor right now with my legs straight. And if I were to lean back right
yeah,
here, even if my back is supported and those hip flexors then go into their natural posture, what are they doing? If I'm laying back and they're spasming, they're constantly pulling that lower lumbar forward. So even when I'm resting, you think that you're resting,
right.
okay? But you're in a position such that the hip flexors can still grab and be active. If they're spasming, they're always going to be pulling down on the spine,
Okay.
pulling the abdomen and pulling the hip forward, okay?
Yeah.
So that's going to be that's going to be another huge indicator of the spasming of those hip flexors and an area that we really have to pay attention to. So, like I said, I found doing the biotuning and doing the frequency work with the infopathy, the IC pad, is really going to soften those hip flexors up, and it makes it more accessible when we work on them with something like the So Right. Okay, right now they are in a frozen fight or flight stage.
Yeah.
So when we introduce pressure, okay, when we introduce more tension or more fear in the form of pressure, they tend to not react correctly. There's a very fine line when the nervous system, the myofascial system, and the muscular system is involved. There's a very fine line between pressure being good or pressure being detrimental for the body. Okay. It's wondering like, am I being attacked again? Should I go into a deeper fear state or
Yeah.
is this good for me? And oftentimes, somebody like yourself who's not a professional like me, you don't understand how much pressure to put or where to put it in order to kind of deactivate that fear response. So when you
Totally.
just start poking around with things and the body goes, the body's kind of like a scared little puppy. You know, those hip flexors are like a scared little puppy in the corner. Even you coming in and going, everything's okay. The dog's still real skittish, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't know. So you come in with something aberrant, and you're kind of just poking around trying to see what's tight, tender, or sore. The body's going to react negatively again, and that's what's not going to help further your healing and whatnot.
So one of the things that might be you're approach is very unique. One of the things that I'm seeing that might be a unique approach, and you can correct or decorrect. I don't think that's a word, but about it is like I'm saying I think I have a right lateral pelvic tilt, and it doesn't seem like you're like, okay, let's just do drills to bring it down, bring it down. It seems like you're like, let's just open everything up, and your body will naturally go back to its natural state. Is that kind
Yeah,
of
of course. I tell people when they come here and work with me on the table, the magic doesn't happen on the table. The magic actually happens when you stand up off of the table. And one of the hard lessons that I learned early on, when somebody would come in with back pain, and I'm talking this is like 2013, 2014, where I really started to like part-time work on people because I was still seeing myself as a strength and conditioning coach. I'd get them on the table and I'd work on them for an hour and they would stand up and actually have more back pain than when they sat
huh,
down. And I didn't really understand it. They would
yeah,
feel much, much better after they got off the table about 45 minutes later. But I didn't understand what was going on. And what was going on was I changed too much of the body on the table, and when they stood up after that hour, it was too great of a change, and the body actually took it as a threat. So what I do now when somebody comes in and they have extreme back pain, I work on them for about 15 minutes at a time. So it's these little increments where I change something in the body, okay? But that change hasn't taken place yet because they're still on the table and the myofascial system hasn't had to tighten up and adjust everything because it's not working against gravity. It's on a table,
right,
just like if you were to lay down on the ground. What happens when a lot of people, when somebody, something spasms in their back, they lay on the bed or they lay on the ground and their feet are up or their feet are up on something like this.
yeah, yeah,
You're like, this, what are you doing? You're taking the sense of gravity away from the myofascial system so it doesn't have to work,
yeah,
right? So that's what happens when we're on the table. That's what happens when we go on a decompression table as well. I've had many horror stories of people with lower back problems. They go on a decompression table, and what ends up happening? They get done with that decompression session, and as soon as they go to move to get off the table, something grabs and they're in insurmountable pain and they can't get off the table for 2 to 3 hours. I've had people say, I had to lay there for 2, 3 hours. I get off. And then, I drove in my car for 15 minutes. I had to pull over on the side of the road and literally lay down on the side of the road for 15 minutes in order to get my back to stop spasming. Why? We have a whole bunch of these receptors in the body, Golgi tendon organs, muscle spindle fibers. And we've known in studies like the Strength Conditioning Association has done in the 1990s, showing that even when you stretch a muscle beyond its capacity, you're changing the way the body fires for up to, I think, 15 minutes on the short side and 2.5 hours on the long side, depending on how much work you actually did. You're changing the orientation of this myofascial system. So what ends up happening is when you stand up after that change, if it's too much of a change, the body has to set in motion pain mechanisms to make sure that even though you changed it for the better, when you get up, you don't go out and run or sprint a mile. You don't get up and go and squat 405 or try to deadlift 515 or something like that. The body needs time now to calibrate the changing of the system into a more permanent fashion so you can operate at a optimal you can optimate you can operate optimally. Okay. I'm
yeah,
trying to spit this out. So there's this lull in the programming of the body and the mind, okay, before they can both get on the same page, and there's this lull in the system. So when we try to do something too quickly, the body's going to react negatively.
right,
Okay. We always need to understand that when somebody else is doing something for us, there's going to be even an even greater lull. I can move fascia around very quickly, and I love there was this guy on Instagram, Bradley Blair, I think, osteopath or something like that. He always had these posts like, "Oh, fascia can't be done with fascia. This can't be done with fascia, blah blah." And I'm like, "Really?" Because I just did it today with one of my clients. So everybody's at their own stages of growth with this thing. If you would have told me 10 years ago that I could do things that I'm doing now with the body, I would have told you too, like, yeah, no, that's not possible.
Yeah,
Okay. But everybody is at their own stage. There's levels to this. I
definitely.
understand certain things about the myofascial system now that I didn't 10 years ago. And I'm only now starting to come out and really speak about it. And a large part about it is I don't deal well with trolls. I don't deal at all really with trolls. Somebody's going to say something or not believe it or going to try to troll me. I don't respond. But still, I don't want to have to waste my time with those people
Yeah,
because what I'm doing and what I'm understanding is miles away from what they're currently doing or understanding about the body. And that's the risk, right? With any type of social media, you start to put yourself out there and
yeah,
people are just like, this guy's a quack. And in all honesty, I've been called that for far too long for it to really even affect me anymore. Where I'm now starting to be like, okay, I'm gonna get out and help people, regardless of the cost, or the
yeah.
naysayers. So that's why I'm out here doing free sessions for people now. And the people that need more help, I'll respond to them. The people that don't understand what I understand, I'm sorry, but this is the way the body works, at least in my world. And I see other people out there that are doing things for people as well where I'm like, okay, maybe that works for you because you understand that, but the body doesn't work like that for me. And that's okay. And I don't troll those people. I look at it, I go, okay, that's interesting. And then I move on.
Right.
But that's really what we need to understand about the body is that the magic doesn't happen on the table. I'm opening things up and I'm uncovering these knots and hard patches and I'm getting them to unglue or I'm getting them to untie. The magic happens when you stand up and you start to move because now the sling that was over here that was all tied up is relaxed and we're going to find where the body moves, what orientation the body moves into next. And then when you get back on the table, I'm going to feel next where the next piece of treasure is, where the
Mhm.
next tight corner is, something like that. Okay, so that's what that's what we gotta know, especially when you're doing it yourself.
So, one of my next questions is about hip mobility. I
Mhm.
am going down the rabbit hole and I'm becoming really passionate about this field as well because I'm seeing that this field is so you have some people like yourself and other people that are posting really good information and then you have some chiropractors that are putting me on a decompression table saying vague statements and then not helping. So like full like my one of my closest friends, he's a chiropractor. I've been going to him forever. I've realized now he's terrible at his job. Like that's like what I've realized. Like you didn't even assess me. You didn't even check anything. You just did boop, 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 and then want to see me 2 days later, $50. Like I'm realizing there's actually exactly what you said. There's levels to this, and not all chiropractors are bad. I had somebody that gave me a 2 hour assessment and actually was doing ART and was saying like, "Oh, okay, this is out of whack." Um, so I guess one of my questions is not one, but we're heading towards the end is hip mobility. Right now, I have 5 degrees of internal rotation, and my external rotation is around 25 to 30 on pretty much both sides. Both sides, my hip mobility is just super low. It's not anything to brag about. I've been
So
seeing
what's
how,
connected? What are the prime movers of your hips?
well, the hip flexors,
And what did we already deduce from what we were speaking about?
tight hip flexors are
They're in
spasming.
spasm. they're
Okay.
spasmed, so I wouldn't expect you to have any hip
Okay.
mobility whatsoever, and you even sent me, I remember, the one email of the guy that assessed you. I don't know if this is the gentleman you're talking about, but you told me that your left hip flexor, like, nothing was doing.
My left psoas, I couldn't even pick it up in a straight leg raise with my left foot outside.
Yep. Yep. So, super common. The hip flexors are spasming,
Okay.
and when we get them active again, okay, it's a great thing. You told me that you got it active, right? And we started to feel a little bit of a reduction in pain.
Mhm.
When we get them active again, this is the final piece that a lot of people are still missing, is that physical pain can be held outside of the body. And this is where the biotunes come in. Eileen McCusick, she's brilliant at her job. But I've also found that if you just do biotunes, meaning I've done them myself, okay, that when the information in the field gets corrected, now we have a whole bunch of jumbled and jarbled information in the body. So it works both ways. Even though I pay very much attention to how my fascia is oriented and how things are firing, when I corrected the information out in the field, what ended up happening was I got disarray again in my body. Okay,
Oh,
so there's always going to be this push and this pull. And what you do is you keep on working with the biotune information, you keep on working with the physicalness of the body until these two kind of blend and meet again. And that's when we have something that's fully functional where we have no more problems anymore. Okay, so you may have turned that guy on, but what ended up happening is we didn't correct the information out on the field. So we
yeah.
still have corrupt information coming from the field into the body, even though that hip flexor is moving again. And this is again where practitioners go wrong. And everybody thinks that we are just physical beings. So I got to the point about 5, 6 years ago. This is around 2019, right before COVID hit, where I started to realize I'm not just doing physical work on people. This is an energetic exchange. And when I understood things about my own human design, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but I'm a projector. So that means that with everybody that I work with, my aura, my biofield is actually blending and tuning with the person's biofield that I'm working with on the table. And that's why I can get results that a lot of other massage therapists can't even think about. Like it doesn't even it does not even compute that hey, I can do this with the body. And what I started to realize when I went full time with this thing around 2016, 2017, I would be working with people and I would get intuitive hits where something would come through my brain and it would just say left glute, right hamstring, right rhomboid. And I'm like, why are these things coming through my head? Because my biofield is literally blending with the person's biofield on the table and I'm downloading information, okay, from their body, and because I'm working with them and it's an energetical exchange, I'm literally getting this clairvoyant. And this is where things just get really fucking weird because we're not taught that this can actually happen. Okay. But this has been happening for me since 2017, ever since I went full time with body work. And I was doing 8 to 11 appointments a day. That's 8 to 11 1 hour sessions a day
Yeah.
with people. Okay. And when I started to listen to those messages was when I took the healing experience to the next level. And people would come in and I went from, seeing people maybe 10, 12 sessions to seeing people for 5 to 7 sessions. And nowadays it's 1 to 3 sessions, no matter what you're dealing with, to where you're seeing significant pain reduction in the 70 to 80th percentile. Like
Yeah.
literally, you come in at a 9 or a 10, and in 3 sessions, which is typically about 3 weeks, I space my sessions out about 7 days. And in 3 weeks, your 10 is down to a 2. Okay. So then I also give people homework. So they're
Yeah. Yeah.
leaving
Homework's
and
important.
doing other different types of homework away from me and whatnot. But this is what people don't truly and fully understand about the body, is that we can hold physical pain. Physical pain can be coming from our organs, okay? You look at something like a liver meridian, easy peasy. You eat something and you start getting pain in the upper right quadrant of your rib. Okay, and yeah, of your lower ribs. I'm sorry. That's liver meridian all day. Something is wrong with your liver. Okay, and then you can also get a seemingly stagnant hip flexor turned on, but you're still experiencing a little bit of back pain and you don't know why. And that's because we may have corrected the physicalness of that hip flexor, but we did not correct the information in our field coming from the field where all ideas, all past, present, and future thought is held. It's everything that Einstein talked about in the 1920s. It's what's his name? I mean, Tesla knew about it, but there was a gentleman back in the 1840s or 60s. All right, it doesn't really matter. Well, I'll put it in the show notes if I remember it. And I can't believe I can't remember his name, but the gentleman who first discovered scalar waves back in the 1860s,
I
I
could
believe.
Google it for you real quick.
Yeah, if you wanna, I don't even
Scalar
know if it's up.
waves, 1860s.
Yeah.
This has the forgotten pulse scalar physics. Who discovered it? Um, it says it was primarily linked to Nikola Tesla, but says James Maxwell.
James Clerk Maxwell. That was
Yeah.
his name. Yeah.
Okay. So
So
I'm
we knew
actually,
about these. We know about this stuff. We've known about this stuff for a very, very long time. It's all been suppressed because you're not supposed to be the authority of your body. You need to be going to the doctors who took 8 years to study pharmaceutical medicine. Everything is dictated by the pharmaceutical companies. This is how we get people well because this is how we make money. It's not about the woo woo stuff out here. Okay. But it very much, the people who are looking for true healing in the body, they find me, and this is what we end up uncovering.
yeah, I'm just going to grab your book really quick. I just want to show you something. It's funny. It's called the Back Pain Bible. I'm not somebody that has like just skimmed through your book. I'm actually not a good reader. I've read like 4 books in my life, and over the past 6 months, I've read like 4 books, and I've picked some up, put some down, and I've highlighted a lot of stuff within it. Like one of the things that says, if you're hammering away your glute medius of yours for 6 minutes and there's no tender spots, it's safe to say that muscles sound. Like, and I really like a lot of the stuff. I have a lot. It's talking about ice. Um, this is a whole sentence that I highlighted that I really like. Your real core is what I call your hip flexors, QL, glute muscles. Take one of those muscles away and take away your movement. And then it goes on because it's also like talks like how I talk and then says, no one's ever, nobody's ever called into work sick with sore abs.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm a very big fan of your work, and I was actually going to say I'm going to be in Florida for Easter, and if I could come and get a session in with you,
Yeah, absolutely.
I would love it.
Absolutely. Let me know and we'll set it up.
My last thing is I just wanted to ask you, like you are one of the top people that I've found in this industry, but the social media following isn't plentiful. And you have touched on that at the beginning, kind of just like you're not dealing with trolls and stuff. So I was going to say, like, you have the thing, you pay $300 and you have access to all that, but would you ever consider like a Patreon or a school where people can, like, it's more interactive of a community and they pay $50 a month to be in your community? um I think that would be like really beneficial for you and people in general.
Yeah, sure. The thing, when it comes to social media, besides YouTube, even though YouTube does kind of get a little bit ridiculous with the titles and the thumbnails and things like that.
AI is making all of it now. It's tough to compete.
Yeah, everything is the shock and awe value, right? Like it's I need to grab attention, and what I do is I refuse to buy into that type of promotion, even to my detriment. I'm a Taurus. I'm a Taurus sun, so I refuse to change and I refuse to give people what they want. I give people what they need. And that's why I'm changing, or I'm putting out the reading of my books on Instagram and
Yeah.
Twitter and things like that. And then I'm doing long form teaching because that is who I am. I'm not the guy who's going to put on some type of draft costume and go and run down A1A and videotape it just to get views. That's not my audience. That's not who I am. I am an educator. I'm a coach first. I'm a teacher first. Okay. So that's what I do. And I'm looking for people who have the toughest of cases, which isn't everybody, because I'll see some accounts on social media, right? It's a 5'5", Asian guy, and he's saying, "Oh, you got shoulder pain? Just go ahead and do this stretch." And he's got 300,000 followers. He
Yeah.
has maybe 15,000 likes on it. 2,000 comments. Everybody's like, "Oh my god, that was the best thing ever! I can't believe it." And a lot of this stuff is bought and paid for too, as
Yeah.
well. So for me, my vibration always has been integrity and authenticity. You get what you see. I've always moved one client at a time. I can't lie to people because there's nobody else in my business. I don't have a team. I don't have a massive clinic where, okay, we tried our best and I can just sweep you under the rug. Maybe you can just go somewhere else. I'm sorry it didn't work. Every person that I work with, it's my mission to get them well. And I can sit here and say that out of everybody that I've worked with to this day, there have only been 3 people that I've not been able to heal. But the 2 people, one person was way too skittish to do any pressure work. And the other 2 people that I work with them way too early in my career where I didn't understand what I understand about the body now. Okay. So I don't
Nice to admit
worry.
that.
What's that?
I said it's nice to admit that, like,
Oh,
you
yeah.
realize that you've learned so much now than then, and you're a better, healer now than then, just based off experience.
Yeah, yeah, there's not too many people that will really talk about their failures when
Yes.
it comes to healing, right? But,
Yeah.
when we look at certain disciplines like chiropractic, where you alluded to earlier, the first thing that I ask people is what is connected to the spine? And what everybody says, the muscles, the
Muscles.
fascia. And I say, okay, so does it make sense for us just to adjust the spine and then send us on our way? Does the spine sublux itself? And the answer is no. It's got to be tightness, overcompensatory patterns, aberrant patterns in the body that are constantly pulling, okay, and maladjusting the spine. So then we go in,
Right.
we
Muscle
adjust it.
imbalances. Right.
Yep. We go in, we adjust the spine. We take a little bit of pressure off of those sensors. We feel better for maybe a day or two. And then what ends up happening, it comes right back and we got to go back in.
Yes.
Okay. So does it make sense? Does it make a little bit more sense to maybe be working on the fascia and the muscle first? Maybe we need it. And that's why I say in my back pain Bible, here's a pro tip. Ask the coach. I said, what before going to the chiropractor, roll these areas all
Yeah.
up and down along the spine, soften that tissue up, get it warm, go and get the adjustment. And now that we have the muscle tissue relaxed and we have the spine in a better orientation, go home and roll on it again to release whatever is left over. And this is how we really optimize chiropractic. But I can tell you this, there's no chiropractor that's gonna pay what I pay to work on their clients before and after their adjustments, because those costs are gonna skyrocket, that people aren't gonna be able to afford, and insurance won't pay because it's gonna work on a much more permanent basis,
Yeah.
and what the chiropractors need is people continuously coming back. Where someone like myself, I try to heal somebody as quickly as possible in hopes that they go and tell 10 other people.
Yeah.
And out of those 10 people, 3 of them will entertain coming to see me. And then when I work on those 3 people and they experience the wizardry, then they go and tell 10 other people. Now I just multiplied my marketing efforts. You see what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And that's when I got fired and subsequently left physical therapy in 2006, I want to say, I told myself, I'm never going to be like that. I am
Yeah.
never going to be all about dangling the carrot and lying to people. I am going to operate first and foremost through integrity. And everybody worries about their next client. I only worry about the client that's in front of me. And I try to heal them with 100% of the knowledge and help that I can, in hopes that they'll go and say, hey, this guy really cares. And, that's where we're at in today's day and age. Everything is kind of like, just your cattle. I need to see as many people as I can
Yes,
in
that's
an
what it
hour
is.
because I have to pay for my chiropractic tables, which are overpriced. I have to pay for my rent, which
It's
is way
also
too much.
recurring too. It's not
Yep.
just the cattle, it's, "I need them back on Wednesday." "Oh, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
just, come back on
Yeah.
Wednesday, come back on Friday," and it's like, "When am I not gonna have to come back?"
So it's not them, they're really trapped in the system, and like you said, man, they're not all bad apples. Your
Yeah,
friend, unfortunately, wasn't doing the best. He doesn't know what he doesn't know yet. But then the other chiropractor you went to, the guy really sat down and he really cared, and I love hearing that. I'm
yeah,
not trying to I'm not trying to bash Western medicine. I'm simply trying to open people up to see the shortcomings of the system that was created by people or corporations that are only interested in how much money they can get out of you,
yeah.
right? It's very difficult what I do, man. Very, very difficult.
It's
And it took
complex.
a really, what's that?
It's complex, and it's
It is.
a little bit
It is.
more
It's
new.
very,
It's like, not so many books are on fascia, not so many books are on this
that's
topic.
because, yeah, it's an enigma. Jean-Claude Guimberteau in his book, The Architecture of Human Living Fascia, I found out in 2017 that fascia has no specific way in which it orients itself to fire. He stuck a scope underneath the skin, pulled the skin away 10 times, and every single time fascia was orienting itself differently. And he even tried to create a computer program, an algorithm to dictate or predict how fascia would fire. And he couldn't do it. So that's when I realized, like, wow, man, there's nobody that's going to be able to create a model to treat somebody like you the same every single time.
Right.
It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Every single case is different but the same.
And there it is.
Yep. And I think that's a good space to hold
Leave
off
off.
here.
Yeah.
So keep dropping comments in rebuilding you, and then if there's anything longer form or whatever, send me an email. Okay, but I'll go ahead and I'll send you the information on infopathy, and I'll send you the information. I'll send you one of the biotunes, the hip flexor biotune, and you're gonna go into a different dimension now.
Yes.
Okay, where you need to be open about the non physicality or the non locality of your pain. Okay, um, yeah, and that's all I have to say about that.
Okay. Well, thank you. I really, really appreciate this opportunity, and I'm really looking forward to Eastern Florida. I'll just email you. We'll probably be in touch before that, but thank you again, and I'm just really appreciative of your work. Like I said, just I got it all highlighted. I don't just read it once. I go over it a lot. Um, so thank you.
My pleasure, man.
All right.
I
Have a
look
nice day.
forward to, hearing about this stuff really, really making a difference.
Yeah. You'll email it to me?
Yeah,
Okay. Terrific. Thank you.
you're welcome. Take care.